Okay, I'm reading Christmas Story Part 3. She sang another song by Schubert, but it was not the one he wanted. And at last she stood up. You see, there are so many love songs. Yes, I know, but this one is rather different somehow. Couldn't you bring her in? She said. Perhaps she would remember. Oh no, he said, I wanted to find it without that. They went downstairs, and several times on the way down he thanked her for singing. You sing beautifully, he said. You would have liked this song. Come in again if you think of it, she said. If you can only think of 2 or 3 bars. Nervously, he fumbled with the umbrella and then quickly put on his hat, and then, as quickly, took it off again. He thanked her for being so kind, raising his hat a second time. Outside the shop, he put up the umbrella too sharply, and a breeze, catching it, twisted him on the bright pavement and bore him out of sight. Rain fell gently all evening, and customers came in and shook wet hats on bright pianos. She walked about trying to think of the song the young man wanted. Songs by Schubert went through her head and became mixed with the sound of carols from gramophone cubicles, and she was glad when the shop had closed. Effie began racing about in her underclothes, getting ready for the party. Clara, you can't mean it that you're not coming. I do mean it. I'm always bored, and they really don't want me. They love you. I can't help it. I made up my mind last year. I never enjoy it, and they'll be better without me. They won't let you get away with it, Effie said, and I warn you, they'll come and fetch you. At 8 o'clock, her father and mother drove off with Effie in the Ford. She went down through the shop and unbolted the front door and let them out into the street. The stars are shining, her mother said. It's getting colder. She stood for a second or two in the doorway, looking up at the stars and thinking that perhaps after all, there was a touch of frost in the air. Get ready, Effie called from the car. You know what the Williamses are, and laughed with high, infectious scales, so that her mother and father began laughing too. After the car had driven away, she bolted the door and switched off the front shop bell. She went upstairs and put on her dressing gown and tried to think once again of the song the young man had wanted. She played over several songs on the piano, singing them softly. At 9 o'clock, something was thrown against the side street window, and she heard Freddie Williams bawling. Who isn't coming to the window? Open the door. Who isn't coming to the party? Open the door. Open the window. One more time. Who isn't coming to the party? Open the window. She went to the window and pulled back the curtain and stood looking down. Freddie Williamson stood in the street below and threw his driving gloves at her. Get dressed, come on. She opened the window. Freddie, be quiet. People can hear. I want them to hear. Who isn't coming to whose party? I want them to hear. He threw the driving gloves up at the window again. Everybody is insulted, he said. Come on. Please, she said. Let me in then, he bawled. Let me come up and talk to you. All right, she said. She went downstairs and let him in through the shop, and he came up to the music room, shivering, stamping enormous feet. We're going to stop there because it's noisy now. Stamping enormous feet. Getting colder, he kept saying. Getting colder. You should put on an overcoat, she said. Never wear one, he said. Can't bear to be stuffed up. Then don't grumble because you're starved to death. He stamped up and down the room, a square-boned young man with enormous lips and pink flesh and small poodle-like eyes, pausing now and then to rub his hands before the fire. The mater sends orders you're to come back with me, he said, and she absolutely won't take no for an answer. I'm not coming, she said. Of course you're coming. I'll have a drink while you get ready. I'll pour you a drink, she said. But I'm not coming. What will you have? Gin, he said. Clara, sometimes you're the most awful bind. She poured the drink, not answering. Freddie Williamson lifted the glass and said, Sorry, didn't mean that. Happy Christmas, good old Clara. Happy Christmas. Good old Clara, come on, let's have one for Christmas. Freddie Williamson put clumsy hands across her shoulders, kissing her with lips rather like those of a heavy wet dog. Good old Clara, he said again. Good old girl. Songs kept crossing and recrossing her mind, bewildering her into moments of dreamy distraction. She had the feeling of trying to grasp something that was floating away. Don't stand there like a dream, Freddie Williamson said. Put some clothes on, come on. I'm going to tie up Christmas presents and then go to bed. Oh, come on, Clara, come on. Millions of chaps are there, waiting. She stood dreamily in the center of the room, thinking of the ardent, shy young man who could not remember the song. You're such a dream, Freddie Williamson said. You just stand there. You've got to snap out of yourself. Suddenly, he pressed himself against her in attitudes of muscular, heavier love, grasping her about the waist, partly lifting her from the floor, his lips wet on her face. Come on, Clara, he kept saying. Let the blinds up. Can't keep the blinds down forever. Is it a big party? Come on, let the blinds up. How can I come to the party if you keep holding me here? Let the blinds up and come to the party too, he said, eh? No. Well, one more kiss, he said. He smacked at her lip with his heavy, dog-like mouth, pressing her body back towards. Good old Clara, all you got to do is let yourself go. Come on, let the blinds up, good old Clara. All right, let me get my things on, she said. Get yourself another drink while you're waiting. Fair enough. Good old Clara. And we will pause there. That's part 3. This is a very long story, isn't it? Okay. Please go on and watch part 4 when you're ready.